You're listening to Xsgaming Podcast, a podcast for gamers by gamers, with your hosts Xander, Skullion, and James Gruesome, bringing you something old, something new, and a little bit of nostalgia too.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Xsgaming Podcast. This is episode 103, and we're recording this on the 18th of June. I'm your host, Xander Skullion, and unfortunately, James Gruesome is a little under the weather, and so unfortunately, this is going to be a solo episode. I really wanted to cover E3 and talk about you guys, and just, tell you everything that's been going on, and
Hello!
Oh. Burhan?
Yeah, you kind of, I think you accidentally butt-dialed me, dude.
Oh, damn it. Well, I guess you can be on the episode too, Burhan.
Oh, you know what? If you're asking so badly, I think I will. Because I can tell you're begging me right now.
So oh yes,
has to happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the most anticipated guest of the Xsgaming Podcast and the most frequent guest of the Xsgaming Podcast, the Nerdgenious himself, Mr. Michael Burhan. What's up, Burhan?
Oh, nothing much. I'm sitting here playing around with my new equipment in my new kind of studio. I've shoved myself in a closet somewhere, so I don't think I'll be coming out of the closet anytime soon.
Well, at least for the next hour, you're going to be safely in the closet while we discuss E3 and a couple of other gaming news. And of course, yes, guys, E3 just passed. It's like the Super Bowl of gamers, and it was a very interesting E3. Some people said, it was amazing. Some people were like, meh. I honestly, before I ask your opinions, Burhan, about your overall thoughts of E3, I thought this was like kind of some parts of it was really awesome, some part of it was very safe. What would you say about this E3, Burhan?
Definitely a safe E3. I felt it was rather underwhelming, but I can understand why, because usually you'd have Sony have this big, huge pitch and like, it's available now, but you had that coming from Microsoft, and I think the one thing I can say about Phil Spencer is the guy is a gamer at heart, so he's like trying to do everything he can to appease the fans, which is great. But with everything else, it was kind of like rehash, VR rehash, more rehashes. Do you remember the super game that you played 2 days ago? Well, we're rehashing it. So it was kind of like, okay, I could see where you're coming from. It was enjoyable, and I felt like every gamer got what they wanted out of it. But at the same time, it was just like, yeah, bro, I already know that song sheet, man. I've learned that song sheet back to front.
Yeah, it was one of those things, like, I felt like Sony played it safe this year. I mean, they did mention a lot of VR, and that's still a debate of, some people think that VR, is just kind of like a fad. Some people think that it's the future of gaming. Me personally, I think I'm not sure about VR. I think VR is an interesting concept. I know a lot of people that had the PSVR, and people that I know that had the PSVR absolutely love it. But at the same time, there's nothing that's out there that makes me go, oh my god, I'm going to have to go out there and buy a VR, except for one thing, which really surprised me, and it surprised me even more because I talked so much crap about this game. I talked a lot of crap about it last episode, and that is Bethesda announced that Skyrim VR is coming out.
I think I'm more interested in Skyrim for the Switch, just because I'm a huge fan of the Switch right now. The whole issue with the VR system, my opinions on the VR system. I think nearly everybody in the gaming world who's probably downvoted my video on this knows that I feel that VR is a gimmick. It's a complete and utter gimmick. A lot of shovelware went on the system. It reminds me a lot like I would say like the PlayStation Vita in terms of Sony's handling of it, but it also reminds me of the Kinect in the fact that they're trying to hypersell this thing. And I think it's a good idea to have AAA titles on that thing using the VR experience. But like Doom VR, why is it that they're going to sell a separate game instead of giving people an update that gives them that option? Like when Nintendo released the Amiibo Festival version of what was it called?
Of Animal Crossing?
Animal Crossing, yeah. Where they updated, they gave you an option to buy the game and then update your existing game. And I think that with the VR situation, that's what they should do. instead of going rehash of Doom VR, Skyrim VR, loads of other VR experiences. It's like being on Oprah. Like, you get a VR, he gets a VR, everyone gets a VR, and it's kind of me going, okay, well, there's still this shitload of shovelware that's on the side there, so it doesn't really impress me. I think the one thing that did impress me, even though the VR stuff was going on, Bethesda, when they did that Evil Within trailer, holy moly. Holy moly. It's like Hideo Kojima levels of holy moly, man. It's like it was like Death Stranding variations of what the hell is going on there, but I still want it, And the music, the whole Duran Duran music they had, the cover they had going on, that made it sound really dark and gritty. It was, holy balls. I literally nearly exploded in my underpants from that.
Yeah, it seems to be a going trend for the last couple of years. A couple of years ago, trailers always had the crazy dubstep, wop, wop, wop. Now it's like they just cover a bunch of, not even obscure, but they just cover a bunch of 80s and 90s songs and let's add a lot of reverb and let's have them whisper the lyrics. It's so weird.
Let's have children sing to make it sound really creepy.
Yeah, because you think about it. You had the Battlefield game when it came out. It had white stripes, and I think even Call of Duty World War II had something like that. All these games have something that goes in those lines, and for some stuff it works. I will say with Evil Within, I played the first one. It was just all over the place. I couldn't really get into it too much. Evil Within 2 does intrigue me. Hopefully they have more of a vision. I feel like Evil Within was more of hey, you remember Resident Evil the way it's supposed to be? Well, this is how it is. It was like a love letter to Resident Evil 4 fans. That's what it felt like to me.
Just as big enough of a clusterfuck, but it's a better clusterfuck. But the thing that I found from it as well, one of the takeaways that made me laugh for me free was, do you notice that every zombie survival game that's basically going to be released, excuse me, including the Evil Within 2 and Days Gone, the main character looks like Joel from Last of Us. Everyone's got the gritty dad beard and the long hair.
Yeah, I will say that game you mentioned, what was it, Last Day?
Days Gone.
Days Gone.
Yeah.
That, I'm sorry, I know a lot of my friends are really, really anticipating that game, but that game, even the title, I even was mistaken the title because it feels like something I've already done before, and
it's generic,
it's so generic, and I'll talk to people and they're like, oh, it's like Last of Us, but with motorcycles and Sons of Anarchy. I'm like, it really, I felt like the guys at the studio were sitting there with a piece of paper and they're like, what's really cool 3 things? Someone's like, The Woods, The Last of Us, of course, everyone loves The Last of Us, and motorcycles.
And let's also add a little caveat to that. What about The Walking Dead? Because do you know the zombies aren't the real villains in this one. It's the people. Yeah.
It's to me it was just like, some people were asking me if that was going to be a day one buy. I'm like, absolutely not. That'd be something I might get on Redbox and play one weekend and spend $3 and have
or PSN Plus. Wait till it gets released on PSN Plus so you can get it for free.
Yeah. And that will be a PlayStation Plus game. I could see that in the next couple of months. But not to get off too much of a tangent on zombie games.
But it was literally, most of the games were zombie games because they're the thing, and everything else. And I really got pissed off with it as well, because I was sitting there going, no, you're going to oversaturate this. And if you oversaturate it, it's going to make games like the new season of The Walking Dead for Telltale Games look really bad in comparison, because people are just going to be so fed up with the genre that they're just not really going to want to play with it,
Yeah, I agree. And what I was going to say about the VR, going back to that, because we were talking about, Skyrim and Doom VR, and Skyrim on VR, I definitely want to try that out. That sounds really cool. And I've always said that an RPG VR experience would be maybe the selling point for people to go out and try VR at least. My thing is I've talked to a lot of people that play VR, and one of the things they will say is like, man, I could only play probably 30, 35 minutes of it. I had to stop, because I was feeling kind of.
It is very overwhelming because I played it at the at a gaming expo here in London. I used the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift, and they will get to a point where you just feel really nauseous because it tricks the senses. Like especially if you're playing games where you're really like up in the air and stuff like that, it makes you really nauseous. It makes you start feeling really a bad case of vertigo as well. So it's one of those things that you got to kind of stay clear of. You can't play it too much. It has to be in timed kind of sequences, in a sense. Like you have to like walk away from it every now and then.
Yeah, so with that being said, I don't know how anyone could actually play Skyrim VR. Like, because I mean, I think about it, I'm like, man, I played Skyrim. I put like 200 hours into it back on the Xbox 360 in like 2011. I really enjoyed the game at the time. I feel like Bethesda's milking it like a cow, but even with that being said, I mean, could you imagine someone spending that much time on Skyrim VR? I absolutely couldn't unless they wanted to, like, Dragonborn shout vomit all over the room,
Oh, unless they're like sitting on the toilet and then just can't get up afterwards because their legs are probably giving in,
Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of action in that game. Like, you're climbing mountains and, it's all first-person view. You're fighting like these big freaking bone dragons, and I just couldn't imagine. I could imagine, the first, hour or so, you're like, oh, this is amazing. But then, yeah, it's time to take a breather.
Oh, totally agree. It's one of those situations. As I said, I don't think VR is kind of one of those things where I don't see it lasting, especially the PlayStation VR system. And my whole feeling on the thing is this: I think that it needs to be a lot cheaper. If they sold those units for like $150 a piece, I probably would consider buying it. But I don't feel like a third-party peripheral should be more than the console you're paying for it for. And I know the Pro's in like 400 range right now, but the normal PlayStation 4 isn't. And from what I've seen, is the PlayStation 4 does work with the VR headset. The Pro's just more like, bigger processor, and you get
it's like more refined.
Pro. Yeah, and you get games that are only for the PlayStation Pro as well, which I get it, but at the same time, it's just like I couldn't see myself buying VR anytime. So even pre-owned, they're selling it for like $300, and that's the thing for me. And in order to justify something like that, A, it's got to have some longevity in it, and B, it needs to have some astonishing titles. And quite like people used to say that the Switch was the Zelda system, the VR is kind of the Resident Evil 7 system, and it kind of hasn't gotten out of that stigma because everything else on it is complete and utter garbage. Just shovelware. Even the Batman Arkham game that was on it was terrible, literally terrible. I've seen playthroughs. It doesn't look very refined. The third-party developers don't know much about what they're doing for it. I'm glad Bethesda's taking like some lead in it and doing the Doom and the Skyrim variations for it, because I think those are the Skyrim especially. I think it's a good type of game to have on a VR headset.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like out of all the third-party, Bethesda's really going in on the VR, because I mean, they also, if I'm not mistaken, they also mentioned Fallout 4 as well.
Yeah, they've got everything that's coming on the VR. Like every one of their best-selling titles, like Doom, Fallout 4, and Skyrim, were the three aforementioned titles that they were talking about having VR extensions to. I do not know if that means that they'll be going on the Oculus Rift as well, or if it's just PS exclusives. But for me, if I owned a VR system and I was the type of person who liked to play with that system, I would be excited. But for someone like myself, who's a skeptical arse, it's for me, I'm just like, oh, great, VR games, awesome. And, oh, Evil Within trailer, that made me feel really euphoric. Oh, okay, that was it. It's like having a one-night stand and then just being over in 5 minutes. Like, oh, that's what everyone was talking about. Poor guy.
Now, moving from VR, we're going to talk a little bit about Microsoft, and I'm glad I have you on this episode, Burhan, because me or James, both of us, we don't have an Xbox One, And so with that being said, I have to admit, when the Microsoft press conference came on, I was halfway listening to it. I was just kind of like, oh, okay, just so I'm kind of in the now. And also, everyone always talks about like who won E3, who won E3. My thing about it is like, people that were like, oh, who cares who won E3? All the gamers win. We got games to look forward to. My opinion, I feel like E3 is kind of a competition in the sense that you have 3 companies and third-party companies pushing their product to make that money. It's a huge sales pitch. So yes, you can have winners and losers. A lot of people were not too happy with Microsoft in the way that they were talking about game exclusives. They said they didn't have enough games. But the main thing I wanted to talk about is the bombshell they dropped, and that is the reveal of the Project Scorpio, aka the Xbox One X. And
I don't think that was a bombshell, because I feel the bombshell was something else, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the Xbox One X, I was intrigued by it, but as soon as they announced the price, I was like, I'm not buying that anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I got some of the specs. Okay, for some of the people that are listening that are just wondering what's under the hood of the Xbox One X. That's such a tongue twister, too. But it's got 8 custom CPU cores clocked at 2.3 gigahertz. It's got 326 gigs of memory bandwidth. It's got a 1 terabyte hard drive. It can do 4K Ultra Blu-ray player, 4K gaming, and VR support. Now,
it's basically like a PlayStation Pro, but it's a lot more powerful than the PlayStation Pro. And they also have a cooling variation in it, so you don't have fans in the system. It actually has coolant inside the system.
Now here's the interesting thing, because we got the Xbox Core, the Xbox One Core, just a normal basic console. We got the Xbox One S, which is a slimline version, and now we have this one, which is essentially the Pro. And I remember I got into a lot of debates online, because me personally, I'm like you, Burhan. I'm like, I don't feel like spending $500 on a console that's out mid-gen. And a lot of people mentioned something that kind of intrigued me, that it seemed one way kind of pissed me off. The other way made me be like, well, maybe this is the future. A lot of people are speculating that the Xbox One X will have its own exclusive games that can only be used on this console. And with that being said, do you think Microsoft kind of weaseled in an actual new Xbox console?
No, I think the thing, what they've done is what Phil Spencer, because he talked to IGN about this and stated that it's just an upmarket Xbox console. The thing that I'm excited for is that it's actually reduced the price of the Xbox One S and the Xbox One. You could buy a new Xbox One now for probably, well, not new, but pre-owned for like £70 in the United Kingdom, just because this console's been released. It's devalued the other two, so you can buy those on the cheap. It's for those people who want a 4K gaming experience. For the guys, like, we know those guys, those gamers who are like, hey bro, I want this because the specs are amazing. The fact is, I could build a PC with a similar kind of interface, a similar kind of chipset for probably about £300-400. No, less than that, actually, 250. I would say 250. And the reason being is because the tech is so much cheaper now. So they could get away with this upmarket Xbox One because it's a lot cheaper, and it's there to compete with the PS4 Pro. That's all it's there to compete with. It's for those people who want to show how much expensive crap they can buy and get this out. And Phil knows this. He used the debate. They sold an upmarket controller at one point. This was a controller that it felt nice, it played nice, and it was so upmarket. It was like,
I remember that,
$100 controller. And people was complaining and like, I'm not going to buy this shit. Guess what? It's sold out within 24 hours.
Yeah, people.
Right?
The same people that were like, "Oh, this is totally overpriced." Like 3 weeks later, was like posting a picture on Facebook. We got, look what I just got.
Exactly, and it's the thing, and this is the people that he's marketing it to. So it's a smart move. It's smart twofold, because people like you and me who are cheap assholes will go out and buy an Xbox One S because it's a lot cheaper now, because you don't want the clunky Xbox One. Or if you really are that cheap, you can buy an Xbox One and you have 3 different levels of the Xbox gaming experience. So it means no one is left out from Xbox One anymore. Plus, with third parties, you can basically buy your third party software on that system instead of paying an arm and a leg for a PlayStation. Right. So it's a smart move. And the one other thing that really I was shocked about was the fact that Phil Spencer actually listens. Don Matrick, remember the guy who previously was the Xbox guy, the CEO. He never listened to people. He kept sitting there screaming at people and telling people if they didn't like what they were doing not to buy the console and stuff. He was a PR nightmare. Phil Spencer actually took the Xbox brand and he's unifying it and making it something great. You've got Windows 10 integration now. So if you've got a game on your PC, you can do a cross-buy and buy a game for your PC, but you also get it for your Xbox One. So you can play it on either system and then all your data is saved. Quite like with some indie games that you have on the PlayStation 4, where you can play them on the PS Vita and you can cross-play. So you can basically save those games on either system and still stay on that kind of level, which is an ingenious move. But what we found out recently as well, the biggest news that I found is that they're now pushing those barriers down. They're now saying, look, we want to do deals with Nintendo and with Sony so that when we've got third-party games being released, we want to make sure that they are operating on both the Switch and the Xbox One so you can play with your friends, which means it takes away some level of competition, but it also gives everyone a chance to play. So say you own a Switch, own an Xbox One, you want to play Minecraft, right? I'm playing Minecraft on my Xbox One. You're sitting there going, hey, Mike, I've got it on my Switch. I want to play with you. You can jump into my game on Minecraft and play. And it's an ingenious move. It's such an ingenious move because it levels the playing field so that everyone gets a chance to experience games and experience other people's worlds. I might experience it in 4K. You're going to experience it in 1080p on your Switch, but we still get to play together and we don't have to go through this fuss of if I've got a game that's a third party on the Xbox One, I have to buy it on the Switch so that we can play together. So that they're trying to remove that aspect of it, and I like it. They're starting it with Minecraft, Rocket League. Also, I'm not a fan of Rocket League. I know people who play it, but that's now taken the barriers down, so you can play with Nintendo. The only people who are not playing ball with this are Sony.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was gonna be like, but what about Sony? What were they thinking? I don't understand. You have Xbox One and you have the Nintendo Switch. They're holding hands. They're having a good time. They're having a drink, and Sony's in the back corner just as a wallflower, screeching and texting to their friends. Be like, oh, Ubisoft, I can't believe what they're doing right now.
It's very forward thinking. I think in terms of what Phil's doing, it's very forward thinking. And the fact that Nintendo embraced it, I was like, well, what the hell? Nintendo embracing forward thinking? They hate the internet. They hate everything about the internet, but they're sitting there going, look, it saves us on server space. It allows people to game with their friends. It means that people are going to buy games for our console if their friends have it on the Xbox. So it's a win-win. It means I don't have to own 20 different copies of Minecraft, which, by the way, I do because of my kids. But it allows that kind of open unity. And I know why Sony aren't doing it. They gave a half-assed excuse. They spoke to GameSpot, I believe, about this and said that it was more... They came with some bullshit excuse, saying that they can't allow that to happen at this time because of server issues and all this and that. And it was just no. The reason why you're not doing it is because of bottom line. You're afraid that if you open that freaking those gates up, people are not going to choose your system, which I've already said this. The fact that the third party games are a lot more cheaper on PlayStation 4, and if it's more expensive on the Switch or the Xbox One, I'm going to choose the PlayStation 4 because I'm a cheap git. But at the same time now I know that if there is a system that allows me to cross-play, then I'm not going to choose the PlayStation 4 for that third-party title. I'm going to go with either the Xbox One or the Nintendo Switch. But just because of the fact that they're keeping those gates kind of closed. And I think it's stupid. You've got enough first-party titles to keep your fan base immersed. You've got enough second-party titles to keep your fan base immersed. All you're doing is allowing them to play online with their friends regardless of the system, which I think needs to happen. You're that afraid of your bottom line being affected that you think that, we need to keep the barriers up so that I have to go and purchase a second copy of a game just so I can play with my bud. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, man, I'll say right here, right now, that I think that the PlayStation 4 right now is one of the best consoles of this generation. I absolutely love the PlayStation 4. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Xander loves Nintendo and he defends anything Nintendo says. I do love Nintendo, but man, I absolutely love the PS4. I feel like the PS4, in my opinion, is the most exciting Sony PlayStation console we've had since PlayStation 2. It has a lot of that atmosphere to it. It has a lot of that energy to it that I just didn't feel with the PS3 at the time. Last gen, I was all about the Xbox 360. Now I'm all about the PS4. So, I mean, I don't understand why they would do that. And you brought up a good point about, competition and stuff like that. It's just, to me, it's just Sony being silly. Because, let's face it.
It's the same reason why they won't do backwards compatibility. Because they're afraid of the bottom line being affected. And the problem being is, if you be that closed-minded, you're going to get Nintendo levels of hate. People are going to decide that they're not going to choose your console. And I think they need to nip that in the bud quite quickly. Otherwise, they're going to get a situation like Nintendo's playing ball now. Nintendo had a lot of hate last generation because of the fact that they weren't playing ball with anybody. They were afraid of the internet. They were afraid of people pirating their games. So they were very old school in terms of their way of thinking. Now, though, with the Switch, they've been more open because they're like, look, we give people what they want, they'll be more inclined to stay with us. And that's what's happened. The Switch isn't like a freaking amazing console. It's versatile. Without the remote play feature, I think it would basically just be a bargain basement console that no one would really want. But I think with their forward thinking and the way that they are adapting now and saying, you know what, we need to be on the ball with things and work with our community, I think it does help. It helps you, it helps me, it helps everybody involved. And I think in terms of the way that they're dealing with it is the best way to do it. And if Sony, it doesn't matter how great the console is, if Sony doesn't start playing ball with their fans, people aren't going to want to play their system anymore. And you're going to find by the time they release the PlayStation 5, people are just going to walk away.
Yeah, it's funny because Nintendo Switch. It's funny because Nintendo's like, we're not in competition. We're not trying to go against these guys, but they're like modestly doing it. Like it's like someone that's like it's like someone picking up the guitar and you're like, yeah, I'm not that great of a guitar player, and then they start ripping into Eruption by Van Halen. They're just like, oh yeah, this is something I know how to do. Because going into Nintendo with the E3 is a lot of people will say that this year that Nintendo won E3, and what's really funny is this is year number 2, according to IGN, that Nintendo has won most anticipated title. Last year it was Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda. This year it's Super Mario Odyssey, which is hilarious because before Odyssey was announced, how many people did we have say, I am so tired of Mario, I do not want another Mario? Boom, Nintendo brings out a new Mario experience and everyone's back to being an 8-year-old kid on Christmas morning wanting to play some motherfucking Super Mario. I am so happy about it. It is something just amazing. I love it.
Well, the thing is, right, Mario Odyssey isn't my most anticipated game because I believe I see them doing this as what they did with the Nintendo Wii, where they had the Mario and Luigi games, and then they did something different and gave us Mario Galaxy. And that's the great thing about it, is that Mario is very much interchangeable. He can work in every different universe known to man. He can change it up, and he always manages to do so as long as they've got a good programmer to tell a very good story and has a good amount of gameplay to it. And I think most of these people who are Mario haters, the only reason they talk about it, most of these guys I find are usually people who buy the next version of Call of Duty, those type of gamers. It's like, Mario is so oversaturated, buys the next Assassin's Creed game, which, by the way, I will go into that a little bit later, but what the hell, Ubisoft, seriously? But yeah, I'm excited for the fact they got a new Pokemon game is going to be released. Like the funniest thing about Nintendo I found was when they announced what was it, Mega Sun and Mega Moon? And you sat there going, why are you releasing these two games a year after you've announced the release of these two games a year after that you released the original variations of this game? Right? It makes no sense. Who is going to want to play a second version of the same game on the 3DS? And I felt they missed the boat by not announcing those games on the Switch, because I think that would have been amazing. Because I could see that the units of those games selling on the Switch, it would sell out instantly. But they made up for it at E3 and went, by the way, we're going to be making a proper Pokemon game for the Switch.
Yeah,
that was literally a mic drop there. Then they announced Kirby. Then they announced Yoshi. I love the Yoshi game that they announced. It's got like a little bit of tearaway to it. A little bit of Little Bit Planet on there, and it also adds that kind of what they already built on with Yoshi's Woolly World, which by far is one of my favorite games on the Wii U.
Yeah, Woolly World was probably one of my favorite platformers that's came out in the last couple of years. It had so much charm, and I really enjoyed that. And also, it was kind of funny. They announced not just one but two Metroid games. One, of course, has been come out for the 3DS, which is a remake of Metroid 2 that was on the Game Boy, which now I guess we can see why that fan-made game got shut down so quick. And also Metroid Prime 4, which surprisingly, I was reading an article that Reggie said that they weren't even going to announce Metroid Prime 4. They pretty much just made the title and made that into E3 because they wanted to let fans know what to expect. They weren't even really going to be showing footage or talk about Metroid Prime 4 until the next E3. So something tells me this is going to be a game that we're not going to see until sometime like 2018, but it's still something to look forward to, and it's still something that, you've had so many people that say, I want Nintendo to come up with a Metroid. Why aren't we getting a Metroid? Now we got two coming.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about that. I was like, do you want a Metroid? Check. Do you want another Metroid? Double check. The fact that they're doing this is a great idea. Same as Returns on the 3DS. Apparently, that's a rehash of Metroid 2, which I don't care. I like that. I like the fact they're doing this. But yeah, I did see the fan-made game. And the one I've talked about my issues with Nintendo cutting off fan-made games. I feel that these games are no competition for you. I think what they should be doing is hiring people who make these games and go, okay, I like the concept. Let's give you a job and sell your game on like the eShop or something. I think it would probably be a better stance on that, but it is what it is. The fact that they are doing this and they are listening to the fans, like, we'll give you double the Metroid games, we're going to give you a Yoshi game, we're going to give you a Kirby game. That's pretty much like the premium game on the 3DS,
Yeah, I mean, for some people they don't realize, but that's a pretty big deal, because I'm a huge Kirby fan, and we haven't had like an actual proper Kirby game since Return to Dreamland on the Wii. Have you
played the 3DS freemium game that they released?
The Kirby's Robobot?
No, there's Kirby, I think it's called Kirby Battlers or something like that, but it's free. You download it, and it's based on the minigame from Kirby Robobot. And what you do is you go on quests and you get to beat up these monsters and level up your Kirby and stuff. The thing is, it does have microtransactions in it, unless you would mind waiting a day. Where you could get these gem apples, and you use these gem apples to kind of level up your characters and get you into next levels and buy extra weapons and stuff like that. And it's really good. It's really fun to play. The graphics pretty much on the Switch Kirby game that they've got is similar to that, which I don't mind. I like that. I think Kirby, in my opinion, is one of those characters that he's timeless. He's pretty much up there with Mario, with Yoshi, with Luigi, with all those like Nintendo characters.
Yeah.
And I think the fact is that people have been crying out for a Switch version of Kirby, not Kirby's Epic Yarn, which is still a good game, but no. But they are looking for a proper Kirby game, and there's people going to be getting that. And I think Nintendo really did a great job showing all these new and innovative kind of games that they're releasing. Because last year's E3, they had literally nothing, Yeah. Yes, they had Breath of the Wild, but that was it. What I mean?
Last E3 was pretty bad because it was pretty much, we already knew everything they were going to show because we saw the leaks, and the leaks weren't even that big of a deal other than, Breath of the Wild. And I mean, if it wasn't for Breath of the Wild, Nintendo's E3 last year would have just been a complete disaster. So, I mean, we had that at least, but yeah, I feel like Nintendo really stepped up the ante with the Switch. If you've noticed, their marketing has gotten really good. I mean, I was on Facebook the other day, and I was like scrolling through Facebook, and I saw an advertisement for Pepsi Fire, which is horrible, by the way. Do not drink Pepsi Fire.
I need to have this. You know me, Xander. I'm a Pepsi man. I'm a guy who loves cherry Pepsi. I had ginger Pepsi Max the other day. I need to try this.
Pepsi Ginger is very tasty. Cherry Pepsi, very tasty. Pepsi Fire, you might as well be drinking battery acid. That's how horrible it is. I mean, I love fire, like, liquid stuff, like Fireball. That's one of my favorite liquors. But this is just horrible. But they were showing an advertisement.
Tell me again, Xander. Tell me slowly.
I love Fireballs. But no, like, I was seeing an advertisement for the Pepsi Fire, and I'm like, Pepsi Fire. But I noticed that it was like someone was holding a bottle of Pepsi Fire, and the other person was holding the Nintendo Switch, and they were kind of like butting hands or some shit, and they were talking about like, oh, you need this to go with your date. And I'm like, wow, Nintendo is doing advertisements for adults because they're talking about dating with the Nintendo Switch. I mean, this is stuff that, we haven't seen in years. And I will say this over and over again, and I think you can agree with me, Burhan, because I'm pretty sure you can remember that when Nintendo got the new CEO, I was like, this guy has me excited. Because one of the reasons why I was really excited about him is because this guy was the Nintendo CEO of Nintendo of America back in the 90s. And I'm like, wow, we're going to have, a man that's really business-oriented, because he also did stuff with the Nintendo banks. A guy that's going to be very business-oriented, that's a Japanese man with a Western influence of Nintendo of America from the 90s during the Super Nintendo, that's coming back, that's doing stuff with Nintendo. And I kid you not, we have a theme park coming out. We have all these advertisements. We have Nintendo dropping advertisements on, like, movies, Super Bowls. Now it's like everyone and their grandmother knows what the Nintendo Switch is. When you look back and you look at the Nintendo Wii U, everyone thought that the Wii U stood for an upgrade. They thought it was an upgraded Wii. So, yeah, I mean, I'm really excited. I think Nintendo really knocked it out of the ballpark with this.
They are, and I think they're becoming a lot more westernized in that sense, because I find that I've always been the kind of person who's a free thinker, and I believe, I think my best friend said I'm an idealist. So I always believe that when times change, you have to change with the times. And there's still a lot of old school people out there who don't change with the times, who believe that the TV set is the demon box. And Nintendo are kind of in that field of like, whatever we do, if it's not broken, we won't fix it. And I think that level of arrogance kind of nearly killed their business in the console market. And I do believe right now what they're doing is they're taking the right steps. They really need to kind of scale down on the third party price increases, though. A little bit more, but I think first party wise, and I think listening to fans, they're doing that. There's a couple of things that, as I said, that I need to point out and say, hey, Nintendo, you need to work on this. But they are taking the right moves, and they are starting to listen to people, which is if you spoke to them like probably 2-3 years ago and said, hey, Nintendo, why aren't you doing this? They would probably just look at you and go, we're Nintendo, we know what we're doing.
Exactly.
What are you on about? Japanese, I did my badly done version.
It's a slow process. Like, Nintendo is not, they're not on that same level as like Sony and Microsoft when it comes to the way of thinking, but they're slowly getting there. And the stuff they're doing now, I'm really excited and anticipate on the Switch's future, because I mean, one of the things they did mention is they did extend the teams. There's bigger teams now developing games on the Switch. That would explain why there's so many more games they talked about. And I loved it on this E3, because one of the biggest topics that people were like making videos about and making a big stink about was you had Microsoft that was doing like a 2-hour press conference. You had Sony doing a 2-hour press conference. You had Nintendo doing a 25-minute press conference. And like,
I think that works for them.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Is like you had all of them be like, oh, 25 minutes. Like, oh, what are they going to do? Just show like 3 games? No. And this is something I want to say. I enjoyed Nintendo's E3 press conference because it was short and to the point. I'm sorry, I do not want to watch a 2-hour fest where all I want to see is games. I want to see games. I want to see trailers. I don't want to see a skit of a hipster, opening up a bag of Doritos, talking to his girlfriend about, oh, I'm going to totally pwn people on Call of Duty. I don't want to watch, stuff like that. I don't want to see CEOs give me a business report like, oh, last year, we sold over 50 units on this game. Just tell me what's going on. Show me games. I want to play some games next year.
Did we have Aisha Tyler at the Ubisoft press conference this year?
I don't know. I didn't watch the Ubisoft press conference.
I didn't watch that one either. But all I saw was like, we've got Assassin's Creed Origins, and then I think it was Ben Taylor on Facebook. Ben, hi, who basically shared a screenshot of the price comparison where they've released 5 different special editions of Assassin's Creed Origins.
Oh my god.
And I was just like, that is Ubisoft, the fudge. And literally with every higher price model, there's more stuff. And it's like, oh, if you buy this version, then you get the DLC pass for free. If you buy this version, then you don't, but you get all this other stuff. And it's just like, okay, look, what I want is, like the amount of cool game. I want a game. Like I remember back in the day where you could just buy. And I know I'm being like the old man. Like back in my day, we had games where you could just buy the game and then you'd get like a pre-order bonus. But now you've got like pre-order bonus, the shop special edition bonus, the Brokeback Mountain edition bonus, the zombie Call of Duty hyper franchise bonus, the Super Grandad edition bonus. And it's just like, come on, guys. This is getting enough is enough. Like, I understand why they're doing it, but I think you need to stop sitting there going, oh, we can get more money if we do this, this, and this. Because eventually most of these games are going to end up in a shop bin being pre-owned somewhere else. I remember I saw a limited special edition of a game. I think it was Skyrim for the 360, which was like 160 bucks back when it was first released, and they were selling it like for $20 now.
Yeah, if you notice a lot of these special editions, I still see the Doom special edition that came with the statue in GameStop. The thing is like they'll come out with these special editions, and sometimes it's best just to wait because they'll be clearanced out, and you'd be like, all right, well, you remember that awesome steelbook that came with the statue that lit up with a USB cable? Well, yeah, I can get that now because no one's buying it. That's the thing. Like, I think some of these special editions are awesome, but some of them are just like, some of them are just like for people to just buy, to be like, oh, I got the special Uber collection. That's really all it is. This is bragging rights. When it all comes down to it. But that's the thing.
I'm not the kind of person that does that. And the problem is as well, when you oversaturate the market with like 20 or 30 different special editions, it loses its value. Mm-hmm. Like, do you remember the Saints Row, like a millionaire edition where you get like a facelift and you get to fly in a presidential jet and you had like the presidential experience? But no one, I think one person bought it, but they didn't even buy it for the game. They bought it for all the other shit. To say, hey, look, I'm a millionaire. I could buy this game. It's the best game. It's not the greatest game. It's the best game. Some people don't think it's the best game, but it's the best game. It does so many things.
Well, I did before we start getting to games we've been playing recently, because we're actually running close on time. I did want to mention one thing, and I'm glad you're here, Burhan, because I know that this is going to be probably the best news you've heard in a very long time, and that is Level 5 buying out Concept. Level 5 is now owned.
They merged,
they merged.
I got the news, the email news, as being one of the Mighty Number 9 special backers who never received any of his backing stuff.
Yeah.
The digital download.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm still waiting on my Mighty Number 9 Famicom box and my soundtrack. I'm still waiting on that.
I kind of don't care anymore.
I don't either. That's the funny thing. Like, I got the email. I remember I looked at my phone and I was like, I got an email from Kickstarter and it was like Mighty Number 9. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I opened it up and they were like, oh, don't worry, guys. We're gonna be working on making the Mighty Number 9 on the Vita and the 3DS, and we're gonna be sending out the physical backings. And I'm like, oh shit, I forgot I got it. I forgot I even paid for physical stuff.
Yeah. You know what makes me laugh about it the most is the fact it's like getting an email from that ex-girlfriend that you broke up with and you kind of forgotten about, and then she just sends you the email saying, "Hey Xander, how's it going? Remember all the great times we had?" And you're like, "The fudge? What? Oh yeah, I remember." Delete.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought it was hilarious. I was like, oh my gosh. So, I mean, with that
one night stand concept, we've had that one night stand. I think we're done now.
Well, I mean, I think the thing is now is like we can be rest assured that we won't be seeing any more. We shouldn't see any more Kickstarters for concept now being with level 5, and hopefully, level 5 will be able to handle it a lot better because Keiji Mifune is not a businessman whatsoever. So now he can kind of just go back to himself and do whatever he's wanting to do, and have someone else do all the big paperwork. Do all the math for him.
I think he knew.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the thing that really bugged me. And I know I've got friends who like Inafune who've met him and said, "Oh, he's a really down-to-earth nice guy." I gave this down-to-earth nice guy $4 million, me and everybody else who invested in that game. And what I got out of it was a game that was not worth $4 million. And I don't care what kind of story you want to tell me, right? And that we got a game. It wasn't the game that you promised, and even the Wii U version to this day hasn't been fixed, hasn't been patched.
Yeah.
For the people who own the Wii U copy, I know Dave Wade does. I'm sorry, Dave. You can't put out that kind of a product. It's like me doing an Indiegogo for a film that I'm like producing, and then I ask for one set of money, and then turns out that I get like a couple of million for this movie. I'm supposed to give you a movie that you paid for. If I don't, then what the hell was I doing in the first place? And that's the same thing what goes to Inafune. And as far as I'm concerned with this merge with level 5, I've got a funny feeling the only reason why he did that was because he wanted to get the people's anger and aggression away from the branding. I believe it's called level 5 concept now. Mm-hmm. So, either way, I'm happy that this is done, but I still think we're going to see more shady crap coming from Inafune, in my opinion. But that's just me. I'm a one disgruntled Kickstarter backer who couldn't even get his name in the frigging credits.
Yeah, me too. I'm like user 2042 or some shit like that.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, but we sent you an email." No, the frig you didn't. You didn't send me any email, man. You just basically didn't put my name in the credits. So go screw yourselves with a hard wooden heated pole. Well,
like I said, we're about to close the show, so let's get into games we've been playing recently. Burhan, other than the hot polls, what have you been playing recently?
Yeah, I've just been thinking of Inafune, just like making a hot pole shank. Well, basically, I've been playing a couple of games. For those who don't know, I've been basically spending time kitting out an office space and trying to get videos edited and stuff. And when I haven't been editing, I've been playing a couple of quick games. I'm still playing Breath of the Wild, just because the fact that I want to experience the entire game and scheduling and time to make videos and stuff. Yeah. It's a lot of work.
That's a game that you definitely have to have nothing else to do to play.
Yeah. I've been playing that, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because I traded in my special edition version and got I think I only had to pay $8 for the game. Mm-hmm. I'm enjoying that. I went through 50cc, cleared out 100cc. Now I'm on 150cc, and I'm slowly completing that. I'm also playing some mobile phone games. There's a game on Facebook called Everwing, which I've done a 1-minute crunch video for one of Xander's vids on his channel for. So I think it's called Games That You Should Check Out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I did a video on that, and it's a really, really fun game. It reminds me of Galaga, but you have little creatures that you get to level up, and you have these female fairy characters instead of spaceships, and you have boss battles, and you get to play with your friends. So if there's a girl you really like and you want to game together, you can do this basically by playing Everwing on Facebook. The other game that I've been playing is WWE Champions, where I've been leveling up characters. It's kind of like Bejeweled or Tetris, or games like that, where you get to basically use gem combinations in order to build up character stats and matches. It's really fun. But they're the ones that are the kind of the mainstays for me. I have been chopping away at Wonder Boy as well when I get the chance with that one. But again, it's about time. It's having the time to actually sit down and play these games. I probably spend more time talking about gaming and doing videos about gaming than I do actually playing the games.
I know that feeling all too well. Stuff I've been playing lately is, I got ARMS on Friday, and it's a lot of fun. I actually did a review or first impressions video of it that's up on YouTube now.
Does it have a story mode, by the way?
No, not really. I mean, a little bit, but not really. It's mostly arcade. Like, it's got an arcade mode and has like an announcer that talks about like the backstory of a character, or like, oh, they need to do this to get to here, But it's nothing. It's not like an actual like story, like Mortal Kombat like X or something. It's not like that, but
okay.
It's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. I need to play it a little bit more. I've been playing that. I've been playing the hell out of Yakuza 3. This has become like one of my favorite series. And it's funny because this is a series, for all you longtime listeners, that James has been talking about since we started the podcast. He was like, oh, yeah, you should play Yakuza. Oh, you should play it. And I'm like, yeah, I should play it sometime. And now, that's before I even hit puberty. And now I finally played Yakuza 0 because it was a prequel to the whole series. I played that and absolutely fell in love with it. So I played Yakuza 0. I beat that a couple of months ago. I went and I sold my Sega Master System and a couple of games, got some cash, and used a little bit of that cash to get Yakuza 3 and 4. And I'm just playing the hell out of 3. And one of the reasons why I'm playing so much is also because I'm getting myself amped up for Yakuza Kiwami, which is going to be the remake of the first Yakuza. Now, I do want to say one thing to people that are listening. They're like, well, I don't even know where to start. The cool thing about the Yakuza series is you could get Yakuza 5 right now on PSN on PS3 because they never made a physical copy. You could get it and download it, and any Yakuza game you play, you can go in the options and you can watch the stories for the first Yakuza all the way up to 5.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, because Yakuza 6 comes out in 2018, so you can watch them all. So you're not going to be... Because since they all connect, you're not going to be out of the loop. And I'm like, you know what? I wish more games did this sort of thing. Because sometimes...
Gotta watch them all.
Say what now?
Gotta watch them all.
I still can... What now?
I made a very weird offhanded Pokemon reference. I said, gotta watch them all.
Oh, gotta watch them all. I thought you said something about a mole. I'm like, a mole? Where? But no. I wish more games did that because, sometimes, like, a great example, Yakuza 2. It's kind of expensive. It was a very expensive PS2 game because it had a low print run. Then they made a second print, but you can still get it online for like $40, which in my opinion that's too much for a PS2 game. So you play.
I would have paid like $10.
Yeah, so you play Yakuza 1, and then you're like, oh, I gotta skip Yakuza 2 and get Yakuza 3, which Yakuza 3 is only $15. So you start playing that, and you're like, well, I'm gonna be kind of out of the loop because I never played Part 2. Boom, you can watch episode of Part 2 and see everything that happens, so you're not going to be out of loop to play 3. So, yeah, I really like that concept. I like the story. I just really, really like that game. So I've been playing Yakuza 3 and ARMS. That's pretty much what I've been doing, and I felt really proud of myself because I looked at my time played for Yakuza 3, and I've put about 16 hours into it, which is pretty special.
Exactly. That's a really, really good way of like putting it as well, and especially when it comes to games like that. Like me, I've never played a Yakuza game. I might actually just pick up one of them and just see how it goes on that one.
Probably
the
Zero.
Cheapest because I'm
Zero.
Oh, probably will do that. But yeah, it's funny as well, like how when you want to like game and you don't have much to game with. Oh, one other thing I would like to kind of add onto this. For those who haven't tried it yet, check out the Xbox One Pass. It's kind of a similar service to what PlayStation tried to do with PlayStation Now, but it's literally if you pay, you can either pay the $7.99 a month. If you don't want to do that, there's a 14-day free trial. Mm-hmm. You can download games totally free and play them. I'm currently playing the Mega Man Legacy Collection with it. I've downloaded like 20 to 30 different games. The only thing there's the downside to this thing is I only have 100 games available right now.
That's still a good amount of games to get for free.
But it's literally, as long as you have it, as long as you have the subscription, it's literally every single game you can play. Download it onto your hard drive, play through the game, delete it, and then go on to the next game. I'm currently doing that. They've got loads of great games on there that I haven't played. I've got the Devil May Cry Definitive Collection on. That's straight from that. My kids are playing Lego Batman right now from it, and it gives you a huge load of games. I won't be renewing the membership after the 14 days is up. Just because of the fact they don't have a huge catalog, but it's everything from Xbox 360, Xbox One, and what I'm hearing, they're also going to be adding classic Xbox games to there as well. So check it out and tell me what you guys think.
Definitely, that sounds like a pretty good deal, especially with the OG Xbox now, since Xbox is going to be putting out a patch soon to make everything backwards compatible. That's a pretty good idea. But
take that, Sony.
Oh yeah, I know, right? But yeah, Burhan. Before we close the show, where can people find you?
Due to YouTube's weird kind of algorithm change, you can find me on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Nerdgenious. I do regular top fives on there. Xander's been enjoying a lot of those. I also do a show called A Rather British Review, currently on season 2. Another show called Movie File, where I review movies, current and old, kind of rechanged the format for season 2 on that as well. And we'll be debuting a new show with Miguel Leon called Let's Fix a Movie, where we take bad movies and we rescript them, we fix what was broken about them, even due to stuff like recasting directors, recasting actors, etc. We're still struggling with the idea of what film we're going to do first before we actually get the initial pilot out. But check it out. The videos are really great, but 4K quality, so you can watch it on your 4K TV. And also, they're very, very short and sweet as well, especially with the top fives. They're usually about 2 to 3 minute videos of me giving you top fives of this, that, and everything else. Some of the ones that are most notable will probably be the top 5 Nintendo ones, where I was getting destroyed, even though I was actually I was right about them, which made me laugh after I was getting destroyed over them. They're like, how dare you just besmirch Nintendo, and oh wait, the online service isn't happening yet. And Nintendo haven't done this yet. Oh, okay. And also, oh wait, cartridges are more expensive than discs. Okay, this guy has something. So it's actually quite funny. But the thing is, not to sound like an arrogant git, check it out there. I also have comic book videos that I do as well. Loads of stuff. It's really great, and it's even going to get better with my new equipment and my new setup. So that helps. I've got a new video releasing tonight, which will be the top 5 winners of E3, followed by another video coming out called the top 5 issues with E3.
Nice. And guys, I'll have a link on the description below this episode so you guys can click on it. And if you guys are listening to this on Podomatic or on iTunes, be sure to check my channel out. That's youtube.com/Xander Skullion, where you can listen to past episodes of Xsgaming Podcast, or you can just check out some of my other series. Like I have a new series that came out that Burhan mentioned earlier called Games You Should Check Out, where I talk about some games that you guys should be playing and not just sitting on the shelf. You guys need to play these games and enjoy them. But really, the greatest thing I love about this series is I do have the 1 Minute Crunch, where I have viewers like you submit their own recommendations of games they want to play, and they have to talk about this game in about a minute or less. And yes, Burhan made one. He's going to be featured on a future episode. I'm working on episode 5 right now, and yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it, of my channel. I got some other things. I'm bringing back some gaming memories very soon. I'm gonna be talking about Street Fighter 2. Also, I'm gonna be doing a first impressions of the Castlevania series when it comes out on Netflix. I'm going to watch a couple episodes and get in front of the camera and talk about it, because I'm more anticipated for this Castlevania series than anything Marvel, anything Star Wars, anything that someone gets giddy about on a freaking loot crate.
Are you more anticipated than Mini-Force? Than that Korean show Mini-Force, which is badly dubbed in English.
See, I didn't even know. I don't even know what Mini-Force is, so that tells you that right there. You know what's funny is I don't have Netflix. I'm actually going to be getting Netflix just to watch this Castlevania show. So
it's really, really good. Plus, you could also have family members. use your subscription if you get like the complete Netflix edition. Apparently, up to about 6 people in your household can use your subscription. Just saying.
Oh, nice.
Pays for itself.
Well, guys, this concludes another episode of Xsgaming Podcast. I want to thank you guys for taking a listen, and I want to thank you, Burhan, for being on the show. And if it wasn't for you here, I would have been sitting here talking to myself for like the last hour. Probably would have lost my mind.
We know what happens when you talk to yourself, because you get into those fights and you end up giving yourself a black eye, and then you hospitalize yourself. You're like, bit Burhan, I got into a fight with myself. I think me are just going to split up, you know.
I end up blocking myself off Facebook.
Yeah, it's happened
block
like
myself.
a million times. So you're like, screw you, Xander, screw you.
Someone's like, hey man, I haven't seen you on Facebook. I don't want to talk about it. But anyway, guys, as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing to the show. If you're listening to this on iTunes, be sure to rate this show. Give it a little review so it brings more listeners and we can experience more funness of Xsgaming Podcast. As always, guys, happy gaming.
Can't get enough of Xsgaming Podcast? Be sure to check out our audio podcast on podomatic.com. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. And if you have a YouTube channel or podcast you'd like to share, be sure to check us out on Facebook on our group page and join the community. As always, guys, thank you so much for all the support, and happy gaming.